Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou faces a confidence vote in his government today that could determine whether Greece becomes the first euro area country to default. For more, we are joined by Jacques Cailloux. He's the chief European economist at the Royal Bank of Scotland, joining us from London. Thanks so much for joining us. And so much hinges on this confidence vote. If it does not happen for George Papandreou, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at default?
Well, I'm not actually expecting any bad news from the confidence vote overnight. So I haven't really looked into the, the unpredictable.
The other
so I think,
possibility.
yeah, exactly. So I think we're focusing more on the 28th of June vote, which is a much more important one and potentially has a higher risk of not going through. Although I do think that the baseline scenario is that it goes through. So I think tonight is not much of uncertainty, I don't think. But we obviously need to get the confirmation of that. But that's not where I'm focusing the attention just now. I think we need to get the 28th behind us, which opens up the door to the disbursement of the fifth tranche. And that's where the attention should be.
The 28th, when you're talking about 28th, you're talking about when they start voting on the austerity?
Yeah, next week, the austerity and privatization program needs to be approved. The details of which are currently still being negotiated in Athens with the Troika. And so we need the full draft of that program, and then it's going to get through Parliament. And the question there is whether the Parliament will get a backing or not. We think that we also, I think, baseline again is that we get at the early stage of July the go-ahead for the disbursement of the fifth tranche. It doesn't solve, the medium-term story, but it certainly brings a bit of breathing space in the short term. I mean, the focus as well is obviously on the medium term. There was a bit of clarification yesterday from the Eurogroup meeting in terms of the nature of the private sector involvement. I think that's also quite important, and we're focusing quite a bit on that.
Everyone, Jacques, is using this sort of phrase, which I'm now going to use, kicking the can down the road. And you hear that, you've seen that with the Eurogroup. And
it's getting bigger.
I know, right? It's becoming a bigger can, and they're kicking it further down the road. So how can this at all provide any confidence to these private investors, the bondholders, that if they agree to terms, extending maturities or rolling over, I mean, how can this instill any confidence for them to do that?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I think there is an issue in terms of rebuilding confidence for long-term investors, and I think that the last 2 months have been extremely negative for confidence. This, public bickering about the nature of the private sector involvement in bailout 2, I think, has been extremely detrimental, especially because, as you looked at it yesterday, obviously the deal is that there is going to be only a voluntary involvement of the private sector, and all the proposals have now been, about coercion, have been sidelined. So I think, we've had that debate. It's been extremely negative for confidence. I think it's going to be very difficult to undo that. But here we go. I mean, this is where we stand, and I think it's going to take time. And the hurdles in front of us are still enormous. I mean, there is uncertainty about the execution of the program, about privatizations, trajectory of the economy, and political risks. I mean, all this is not going to go away.
No. Thank you so much, Jacques. Always good to see you, and appreciate your spending the time with us. Jacques Cailloux of RBS.